1. So I used to work at this diner a couple of towns over from me as a server. For a little backstory to explain, the whole restaurant had 23 tables and 9 of them were bar stools. We were understaffed due to COVID. And most of the time there was only 1 or 2 of us working. That's for serving tables, to-go, hostessing, and checking people out. I was typically the only one there, the only closer. On this particular night, my boss had decided to cut me some slack, and there was another server there helping and closing for me. So it got to be about 8 p.m. and I had closed my section and started doing side work. All of a sudden, it got insanely busy. She got like a 17 top, a bunch of walk-ins and everything. I told her to help her out, I would start taking customers at the bar for her while I did my side work. This older lady walks in and I tell her it's about a 30-minute wait for a table, or she could sit at the bar with me. She explains she had a bad back and can't sit at the bar. I tell her okay, and reiterate the wait time. She asks if she can sit at one of the other servers' empty tables. I say yes, only because of her back, but it will still be 30 minutes because she was still dealing with that big 17 top. She agrees and sits down. A gentleman walks in who I say the same thing to, and he sits at the bar. He asks for a cup of coffee, but brewed fresh, so I start a pot. I put in his order and get him a water while he waited. When I turned around, the brewed coffee was spilling all over the floor. I had forgot to pour out the old coffee. All of a sudden, the lady from before had gotten up, reached over the counter, and spun me around with her hand. When she did that, my hand went under the still brewing, piping hot coffee. I quickly went to the sink to wash it off, and the whole time she's yelling at me. Somehow, I am a bitch, over and over again. I would be lucky if I still had a job to come back to tomorrow. She couldn't believe that I had left her over there waiting for 5 minutes and served another customer before her. She's screaming, slamming the front doors. All the while, I'm covered in scorching coffee. The next day, my boss called and said she was on the other line. He asked me if I had wanted her banned from the restaurant. I said yes. A couple months go by with no drama. Then I showed up one day around 3 p.m., earlier than usual, and my first table was another old lady. She said she was waiting on her friends to show up. I went to my coworker who was with me that night and asked her if that was the same lady from before. She said yes, so I kinda gave her the side eye, trying to remember her face. She then got up, put her menus away, and scurried out saying her friends weren't coming. I should have charged her with assault, come to think of it, but I'm not big on getting involved with the police. 2. This happened a year ago. My mom, 58 at the time, and I, 18 female, went to get our passport picture taken. We had an appointment at 2 p.m. and 2:15 for her. This appointment was made a month in advance. They opened slots a month at the earliest, so my mom made one at midnight since it was summer and the first time that people were allowed to really travel in a year and a half. Most slots get taken really fast. Think like half gone by 12:15. We come there at 1:45 p.m. There is a huge crowd of people in front of the building and on the stairs, around 100 people for sure. We go to the beginning of the crowd to see if there is someone of authority to ask about our appointment and come in. This woman, 60, 65, asks us where we are going in that outraged tone. We tell her we have an appointment and we want to get in. She says, "What appointment? Show me." We tell her no, that it's none of her business. This was a crowd of like 95% people that didn't have appointments. They told us later that some of them had been waiting for like 5 hours. You can do that, walk in that day and hope to be done with it, but it's not a guarantee. There were people with young kids and babies too. The officer lady comes in and tells all of us with appointments to stand in front, which really were like 5 people. The nasty woman stands behind me and my mom and keeps telling people how we have someone on the inside and how rude we are, and that it's not fair that we get to go in when she's been waiting. I keep laughing at her comments, not on purpose, I just found it funny. But I don't turn around because I don't want her to get the attention she wants. She calls me a rude cow and says that my mom clearly never taught me manners. And I finally ask her why she's insulting an 8-year-old. It's 2 p.m. already. So my mom goes inside to see why they're not calling us. They tell her that she made a mistake and that her appointments are half an hour later than we thought, and tell us just to wait. I didn't go with her, I stood outside. But as she was going, the nasty woman yells, "Don't let that woman in!" and keeps talking something about beating my mom up, and actually ran inside after her. She came out soon after. My mom told me that he told her to calm down and step out. So now we had another 25 minutes to go. Mom hugs me because she sees how angry I got. I was ready to go after her, honestly, if she dared touch my mom. She sees my mom hugging and says, "Well, look at her mommy hugging her." I just told my mom loud enough for this B-word to hear. I don't know what the fuck her problem is. People do genuinely ask us how we can go inside, and we just told them that they need to make an appointment. Some of them tried on the phone, but I said it's way easier online. About 10 minutes later, there is this professionally dressed woman that goes through the crowd. I assumed she was one of the ladies working there. She doesn't have a uniform or name badge. I just assumed because she was carrying bags. Nasty woman asks her, "And where the hell are you going?" The lady turns around, looks her up and down and says, "You're asking me where I'm going?" Scoffs and goes inside. They call us 5 minutes later, and we finish pretty quickly. She was still there when I was done. 3. So I work in retail, stocking drinks in a store. A fine-paying job with good management and caring and kind supervisors. Very rarely do we encounter a rude customer. At least, from my time there. Well, this one I encountered was both irritating yet intimidating looking. Like an abusive father. Oh, and he is a father. So here's how it went down. I saw a 5-year-old boy and his father shopping around the juice aisle. And I saw the kid put his mouth on top of a juice bottle, the type with cartoon characters on the top, contaminating it. And he put it back on the shelf. It was Fluttershy from My Little Pony on the juice bottle. This situation reminded me of another certain incident that was even worse. The girl who licked ice cream and put it back. Ugh. Anyway, I walk up and ask, "Did you put your mouth on that?" He looked at me for a brief moment and said, "No." I didn't say anything else, and I took the bottle back to Claims after he contaminated it, and went back to my aisle to continue stocking. Then the father walks up to me, and says the good old, "Your shoes are untied" joke on me. Ironically, I wear black slip-on shoes with no laces. I thought he was being playful at first. Then he starts cussing up a storm in front of me, dropping F-bombs like crazy, telling me to mind my own damn business and leave his 5-year-old alone and do my damn job. I tried explaining to him that his kid put his mouth on a bottle, and he kept yelling, shouting out, "I know! Mind your fucking business and do your fucking job!" I walk away and brought my supervisor out to deal with the situation. After I explained the situation to him, my supervisor tried to be as calm and polite as possible, and believe me, he really is a kind and gentle guy. But the father kept yelling and screaming and cussing all the while in a public place in front of his own kid. It was absolutely heartbreaking that the father was doing this in a public place with his kid listening to him. I also tried stating to the father how dire the situation is, and told him that contaminating products can be hazardous to other customers. Then he claimed that no he didn't, and that we should take a look at the cameras with more cursing, and that if he did, he'd gladly pay for the bottle. Followed up by, "I don't give a shit what kind of kid, no matter how old, spits or licks anything in this store." It's almost like he was having a hard time deciding on whether he was trying to defend his kid or tell us he doesn't give a damn about contaminating products. My supervisor eventually called staff on his walkie and told them to escort the customer out. He said, and I quote, "I got an irate customer here." The rest of management arrives and tells me I can get back to work now. I went back to work once the rest of management kept an eye on the customer. They later told me the customer didn't try to argue or do anything else, and just continued shopping and went out. No problem. It just goes to show you that people sounding tough doesn't mean they are tough. So that's my story, and it goes to show how much the staff cares for its customers and employees. 4. So a little while back, I, a 21-year-old female, flew out of a smallish regional airport. This airport was small enough where TSA pre-check, which I have since I fly a lot, didn't have a designated security line, but instead, they would give you a laminated card saying you were pre-check, so the agents controlling the lines would know what to do. In case you don't know, pre-check basically lets you get through security way faster, and there is an application process and it costs money. I can't remember how much, but it's worth it for how much I fly, and it lets me avoid the dirty looks that I sometimes get for flying with a ton of technology. I usually have a Switch, my phone, AirPods, an iPad, my laptop, and a Kindle. Sometimes I'll also have my 3DS and my Switch dock and my Pro Controller. I'm the bane of people who insist on having minimal amount of things to take out of your suitcase. Anyway, there was an entitled woman in front of me in line, but I didn't know that at first, as is sometimes the case in these situations. When she got to the front of the line, however, it became apparent that she did not, in fact, have pre-check, and proceeded to have an argument with the TSA agent, which happened about 4 feet away from where I was at the front of the line. This was a while back, so the argument is paraphrased, but here's the gist of what happened. She hands over her boarding pass and ID. "Ma'am, you need to get in the other line, you don't have pre-check." "What?" "Please calm down, just walk back down and get in the other line." I should note there was something of a ramp up to where security was from the area where you check your bags. "What's pre-check?" "I just picked the shorter line. There should be more than one line, you know." At this point, I felt like I had to say something. I felt bad for the agent, if I'm being honest. Pre-check is this program thing you have to apply for. You don't have to take your stuff out of your bag, and it's pretty nice. "Wow, there's no sign saying that this line was only for pre-whatever." There were literally 2 very large ones at the beginning of the line. "Well, I didn't see them, so just let me through." "Just go ahead," says the agent. She walks toward the line with the normal metal detector like she owns the place. After I had gotten through the line, glorified hall pass in hand, I then saw the entitled lady attempting to argue with the agent in charge of the metal detector that she was pre-check. That was shut down pretty quickly. She gave me the stink eye as I walked through the metal detector and grabbed my stuff, but I ignored her. 5. I'm an accountant at a Big 4 firm, Yellow Line for those that know. And my sister is a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids. I am 27 years old, have no kids, and make 135,000 Canadian dollars a year in salary. The way my job works is I get billed out to clients at a specified rate, and then my firm pays me my salary. Being an accountant, I get a pretty good view of all things business-related. My entitled sister wants to start a business. Great. That will provide them with some extra income since supporting 3 kids on a single income can be very difficult. It was February, and I was in the thick of busy season, the time leading up to when all public audits are due essentially. It's long 12 to 15-hour days for months at a time. My sister decided to get her business plan up and running, and she needed some help. I told her that I would not be able to help her until May. This wasn't a good enough answer for her. She wanted to get the funding for her business for April, so she could start setting up operations in May. She demanded that I work after work for free building her a business plan, building out controls that I would eventually have to implement, designing business processes, and then getting her the funding from the bank that she wanted for the business. I shrugged it off until she called my boss. She called my boss, a very lovely but serious managing partner, asking if I could get some time off in the middle of the busy season to help her start her business. My boss's number is public on the firm's website, so that's how she got it. This is not okay. My boss came to my office and told me what happened, and told me that if I wanted a vacation, I needed to give them more notice than that usually. It wasn't approved. I was confused because I didn't request any time off. He said my sister called and I knew exactly what she had done. I was fuming, gagged, gooped, and guffawed, to say the least. I called her up and told her to never call my work to try to get me time off in the middle of the busiest time of the year. She was super angry that I could not help her. She ended up going to my mom, a retired chartered accountant, for help. She is retired and doesn't want to work anymore unless she is getting her pay rate from when she was working, which is approximately $1,625 an hour. At the family dinner we have on Sunday, she brings up the fact that nobody in the family is willing to help her get her business off the ground. My mom mentioned that she couldn't afford her rate, in a way meaning she didn't want to do the work because she is retired. I told her that I couldn't take off 2 weeks of my life to get her whole business off the ground and ready for operations. I would be able to do it part-time in the spring or summer for operating next spring. She didn't like that answer, again. I told her that I can sign her through my firm first thing Monday morning, but she would have to pay the $50,000 retainer and signing fee. She explodes and leaves, and agreed to have me work on it for free in the spring and summer. I didn't say it was going to be free, but it was going to be a heavily discounted rate of $45 to $50 an hour, not the $650 that my firm charges for my time to clients. Idiots in the Wild, episode 75, and thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button and share the video with a friend or family member. Every new view is a potential subscriber, and that helps greatly. Alright, let's see. I believe we have a birthday shout-out to do today. And today's birthday shout-out goes to AC Castillo, as you'll see in the YouTube comments. And sometimes we call him Frisbee Ferret. We call him a few other things as well, but all said with love, I assure you. However, I'm just checking here. I seem to have another message. This comes from... Oh, you should feel honored. This comes from Chancellor Gowron of the Klingon Empire. I'll just play the message for you, and I'll go make a cup of tea or something.
I speak to the great warrior, Castillo. They tell me today is the day of your birth. A fine time to celebrate. Fill your cup with blood wine and your belly with gach. Gorge yourself on roqueg blood pie. And maybe a glass of lemonade or something later. You know, whatever you like. It's your birthday. Do what you want. Before I go, I just want to say, may Keres smile upon you. And glory to you. And your house.
Well, that was certainly something. For my part, I'd like to sing happy birthday to you. So I'll do that, and then we'll move on to the question of the day. So here we go. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Castillo.
Happy birthday to you.
For the record, Martok was about a chancellor, so get stuffed, mate. Right, now let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day.
A question of the day. Why must you ask questions all day, every day? Do you think people do not have anything better to do than answer these inane questions? A man of honor would find the answers himself.
All right, settle down. Close the door behind you. Some people, right? Anyway, Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... Right, this is going to be a bit of a cultural one. What is a foodstuff from your culture that you love that you have trouble communicating the absolute wonder of to people from other countries? I can name 3 off the top of my head. Right, in Scotland we have a type of sausage called Lorne sausage. It's basically, you smush it together with the various ingredients, herbs, spices, meat and whatnot. Then you put it in a loaf pan to set, and then you slice it and fry it. Right? It's a very, very simple to make thing. Do it without a case. Right? That's one of my favorite types of sausage. And the other two are black pudding, which is it's made with blood sausage. People hear blood, they go, ew. But, if you consider some of the things we do eat, then of course, haggis. And a lot of people kind of get put off with the whole sheep stomach idea, even though a lot of the cases you get them in these days are synthetic. But I guess some of the other ingredients put people off as well. But I love all three of them. And I recommend them to anyone who is not vegan, of course. Although that being said, I've had vegan black pudding and it actually wasn't too bad. Shockingly, it tasted very close to the real thing. But let me know. So some of the wonderful foods from your culture that other people just don't appreciate, that you wish more people did. Maybe I'll find some ideas. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening. And take very good care of yourself.